I'm Casey and welcome to training. As you become comfortable with the troubleshooting process and get more comfortable with the troubleshooting job aid, it can become more tempting to skip steps and revert back to troubleshooting by instinct rather than process. But skipping steps only leaves you guessing at the problem. It will eventually lead you to troubleshoot the wrong issue, miss underlying causes of the issue, and overlook secondary issues that could cause repeat trouble calls. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the common pitfalls that technicians can succumb to when they forgo the TJA process and start guessing at the problem rather than using proven logic. Technicians might not think that initial troubleshooting has value, especially since the customer theoretically went over basic troubleshooting on the phone with a customer care specialist and technical support. But it's important to verify that all of the steps have been completed. The customer may not have performed the steps correctly over the phone, or may not have performed them at all.
Yeah, I'm resetting the receiver right now. Yeah, still nothing happening.
Assuming everything's been done properly will eventually result in wasted time. A common misstep when beginning the troubleshooting process is to forget to check that all devices are plugged in or powered on. Checking the basics from the start will help immediately determine if there's a simple issue that needs to be fixed, or in this case, the customer's electrical outlet. Another common pitfall is assuming that the customer gave the CSC agent all of the vital information, or they might not be aware of something simple, such as their children moving a cable to another port on the TV to play a game console. Checking that all cables are secured properly and in the correct ports will help prevent that. And finally, technicians can overlook the importance of checking that the TV is on the correct input. If you skip this step, later troubleshooting steps become irrelevant and you can waste several minutes of valuable time. The system info screen has a lot of valuable information about the customer's system, but it should not be used as a substitute for the Super Buddy when getting an initial reading on the satellite signal. Based on the information on the screen, you might presume that the issue is signal related. Doing so would be incorrect. This screen doesn't provide any additional insight and might prompt you to replace unnecessary cables and components. If you use the Super Buddy for the initial limit scan, you will get an accurate IRD and DBM reading. You can identify underlying issues and may realize that the issue was caused by a defective chip or board in the receiver. You can effectively localize the issue to somewhere between the receiver and TV. If the IRD is just under the threshold for a limit scan to pass, it might be tempting to think that the dish just needs to be repointed. If repointing and repeaking is necessary, it will be accomplished at the right time while following the TJA. If you skip steps and head right to the dish, there may still be an issue with a cable, connector, or other component that is causing DBM loss. When a technician gains experience, there is a tendency to use that experience to jump to quick conclusions based on certain preliminary information. This is especially true when the issue appears to be a defective receiver. But the issue could be with cables from the receiver to the TV or a port on the TV itself. Not only are receivers much more expensive to replace than cables, but a great deal of productivity is lost by setting up a new receiver when it's not needed. Removing a receiver from an account, adding a new receiver, and downloading the software takes about 30 minutes. So if the receiver isn't actually the problem, significant time has been lost and cost has been incurred by sending a good receiver back to service. In fact, 1 out of every 5 receivers sent back to service functions properly. When in a hurry, it's common for technicians to bypass things like final quick checks so they can move on to the next appointment. The desire to finish quickly is understandable, but remember that once you're assigned a trouble or service call, you own the issue, not the previous technician and not anyone else. Remember, you're the last line of defense in resolving the customer's issue. If the proper steps aren't followed, we could end up with a repeat trouble call and a very unsatisfied customer. Not only this, but they improve your metrics and save time and money in the long run. Fixing issues that seem minor now can save a larger problem in the future. This will help ensure that our customers have quality service for a long time. Let's look at an example of a troubleshooting pitfall as demonstrated by our resident bad tech, Jack. Jack's gotten a little better at troubleshooting through his time with Dish, and he remembered to bring the Super Buddy with him to the customer's door. The customer then shows him where the problem is originating, the main receiver in the living room. The customer tells Jack that his screen just goes black every once in a while and then the startup screen comes back on. The picture has been going in and out for a couple of days. Jack recognizes this as an issue with the receiver right away. The receiver won't stay powered on, so he goes back to the van and gets a replacement receiver for the customer. Jack sets up the customer's replacement receiver and programs the remote. He even explains to the customer what the issue was, a defective receiver, and explains what he did to resolve the issue. The customer is happy, Jack feels good about his work for once, and everything seems to be working fine when he leaves. The next day, the customer decides to have a few people over to watch the football game. He's got everything he needs, snacks, refreshments, and a nice flat-screen TV. It's the opening kickoff. The home team receives the kick and the returner starts to run the ball back.
Here we have Omar Bolden with some room on the outside, and he has Jay Feely to beat, he dives, and then Omar Bolden nearly tripped up.
Dude, call him! What is this? Call him!
Furious, the customer calls Dish to see what's going on. What did Jack do wrong? Let's rewind for a minute and see what happened. When the customer told Jack that the screen goes black every once in a while, and then he sees a startup screen, Jack assumed it was a power issue with the receiver. The receiver was powered on, and the customer had picture when Jack arrived. He should have followed the normal process. If Jack had run a limit scan as instructed in the TJA, he would have gotten a pass. That means that the issue would have been isolated between the receiver and TV. Next, the TJA prompts Jack to test the outlet which the receiver is plugged into. If Jack had done this, he would have seen that this is a faulty outlet. So the customer's issue is being caused by a faulty outlet this whole time. Because the customer didn't complete troubleshooting over the phone and because Jack didn't follow the correct steps in the TJA, the issue went unresolved and resulted in a repeat TC. By following the TJA, starting with the basic initial troubleshooting steps, you can avoid situations like this and avoid some of the common pitfalls that come from foregoing the systematic troubleshooting process. Remember, the TJA was created from hundreds of ride-alongs with your top performing peers. Following it helps ensure our customers are more satisfied with their service, and it makes your job easier by providing you with a repeatable process that can help you approach all technical issues with confidence. It's all part of helping us grow as a company, helping you have a successful career with Dish, and helping us to become best in class. Thanks for joining us.